Are you a visual learner, an auditory learner, or someone who needs to learn by doing? Most of us have a quick answer to that question. We treat these categories like factory settings. We assume the brain comes hardwired from birth to prefer one specific sensory input over all the others. In 2008, a massive scientific review analyzed decades of educational studies to see if teaching students in their preferred format actually yielded better results. This chart illustrates their findings. When you compare test scores of students taught in their preferred style versus an unmatched style, the results are flat. Matching teaching methods to a student's self-reported learning style produced zero statistical improvement in performance. What you prefer is not what makes you perform. Those intuitive learning styles we all identify with are an illusion. The myth stems from a real scientific discovery. Visual, auditory, and spatial data are indeed processed in distinct localized regions. However, these isolated regions never work alone. When learning, the brain acts as an interconnected whole, drawing on multiple areas simultaneously to build comprehension. Learning is a biological phenomenon. It relies entirely on physical, cellular modifications happening inside your head. To understand how we actually retain information, we have to drop the concept of personal styles and look directly at the physical architecture of memory. The process starts deep within the medial temporal lobe, in a small structure called the hippocampus. Its job is to act as a temporary indexer for new information. It is not the permanent storage vault where your memories are kept. Instead, the hippocampus operates like a maestro. It temporarily binds different sensory inputs, the visual layout of a map, the semantic meaning of a word, the sound of a voice, into one cohesive concept. Over a period of hours, days, or weeks, the hippocampus transfers the responsibility for holding that information out to the distributed networks in the neocortex. The hippocampus only sets the stage. True, permanent retention of knowledge requires structural changes at the cellular level. We began to understand how this cellular change happens in the 1970s with the discovery of long-term potentiation, or LTP. The core mechanism of LTP follows a simple neurological rule. Neurons that fire together, wire together. When two neurons repeatedly activate at the same time, the connection between them physically strengthens. This is a literal structural remodeling of your brain. Think of navigating a new concept like walking through dense brush for the first time. You leave only a faint trace. If you walk that same route repeatedly, the brush clears, becoming a well-worn trail, making the journey faster and nearly effortless. You cannot absorb content passively. You have to trigger repeated active neural firing to physically alter your brain's architecture. Passive study habits, like rereading your notes, fail because they don't force your neurons to work. You're looking at the path, but you aren't actually walking it. Active recall, attempting to retrieve information from memory without looking at the answer, forces your brain to rebuild that neural route from scratch. Every time you struggle to remember, you are physically strengthening the synaptic connection. This is the concept of desirable difficulty. By adding cognitive friction, you prevent the brain from taking the easiest, most superficial path. You force it to recruit and link more neurons to bridge the gap, creating a more robust network. Easy tasks only require a weak electrical pulse across existing connections. Strategic challenges demand the intense, repeated firing that triggers the physical thickening of those synapses. Frustration is the physical signature of this high-intensity neural firing. It is the biological requirement for brain remodeling. Spaced repetition uses this friction as a tool. By letting a memory path partially fade before reviewing it, you force the brain to work harder to reconstruct the connection, which results in a much stronger, longer-lasting bond. You can also use interleaving, alternating between different subjects or problem types. This prevents you from falling into a mechanical rhythm and forces the brain to stay active and flexible as it builds comprehension. Try generating your own responses. Explaining a concept in your own words before checking the answer forces independent neural routing, carving that path deep into your neocortex. Long-term mastery is built through strategies that demand the most effort from the brain's physical architecture. You learn best when you step away from your favorite format and lean into the work.